Aloha fam, this is Ezriyah. I am a soul deep intimacy doula. In other words, I work with integration, all the life journey, and focused on transformative gatherings. I'd love to share a bit about my journey with you and the family and connect with Brother Jesse. Aloha.
Brother, all right, I'll go ahead and I'll jump in and kick off the conversation.
You can chop that up in any way too. So.
No, I think it came out great, brother. So I'll jump in and then we'll just kick off a conversation. I'll bring you in, and I have about 90 minutes. So I got to jump on a call at 2 p.m. Eastern, but okay. I feel like that should give us enough time. And we can always run it back. I've had multiple people on multiple times, so we'll go ahead and get it kicked off, brother. So I can't wait. So I'll count down for the editor and we'll count off the conversation. So 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Epic Ez, my brother, what's going on, man?
I'm here in Mexico, Tulum. Been looking forward to chatting with you and just catching up. So let's crack it open.
I can't wait, man. For someone to have had so much impact on it, I would imagine many people's lives. I could tell you specifically for me, and just a day's meeting between the both of us, you helped to facilitate an atmosphere and curate an experience for me that changed my life forever, which we'll touch down the road. But before we get down there, brother, tell me who you are and how you got into this calling and how you became to be so epic.
So, it's kind of crazy. I would say that I'm just another being on the hero's journey, as they call it. And I've navigated a lot of that before having any of the context. So I'm someone who's been navigating the experience, and I'm looking forward to now bringing more articulation to my own story. But I recognize that I'm a being that's written to so many people's stories. So I take that with a lot of reverence, and I'm here to help facilitate the journey as a witness, as an observer, and as a brother.
And you are all those things at the highest level and the highest vibration, man. And but I'm sure your path, like all of ours, didn't start where you are now. So talk about
absolutely not
where you were. Talk about things that you've been through, your life's journey, and how you got called to this work.
So I feel like this work's been looming around me for a long time. Working with energy in the hands, with the family, just having a different awareness as to what the fuck is going on. Like most of my life has been just feeling like I don't fit in, even though I'm at the middle of really beautiful connections amongst people, and I'm involved in community here, and I've always had some form of community involvement. So my journey starts off in Brooklyn, New York, where I was born, then being moved from Brooklyn to Chicago, really Evanston, so right on the border of Chicago, going down to Florida, getting that down south, dirty South life, and then moving back up to college. I went to school I switched majors a lot. Started off wanting to be a doctor, and actually I wanted to be part of the birthing, sequence and to deliver babies. And then that changed to electrical engineering with the intent to kind of please family. And then eventually, one of my teachers made a joke during one of the classes about I was in school for physics. So I ended up graduating with a degree in radiation physics, health physics. And so I do a lot of work in the environment, clean up chemical hazardous material, etc. So I'm in a class with this physics teacher. We've got 2-3 years of the same teachers in classes, so we begin to be real familiar. And Dr. Daniels was his name, and he was talking about something called black body radiation. Have you heard of such a thing? It's the radiation emitted from a black hole. But this is in the Chappelle era. So he's like, black body radiation, and he's like at the board, and then he turns around, and I'm looking at him like, and so he just turns beet red, and we start making jokes, and he's like, okay, let's make a joke. I got one for you guys, since, here's the joker in the back of the class. And he says, what's the difference between the engineers and the physicists? At this time, I was seeking for engineering, and he goes, the engineers know how to fill in the equation. The physicists know what's going on. And honestly, I about cried in that moment. Like I literally changed my major that day. So
wow,
because I wanted to know what was going on. I'm in school for the long haul, and I'm being bombarded with all this information, but what was missing is why? What's the use of this information? I know it's going to help me to get a job, maybe. I know it's going to help me to build a structure or, put some wires together, but why? And that's was pertinent. And so we had also just got into a different form of physics beyond Newtonian physics. And so that was like an open door for me in spirituality, starting to look at the subatomic particles and just wondering what's going on under there and what's filling, what's the consciousness behind all of it. And so I switched into radiation physics, which coincidentally, my mother and my grandmother both worked in the radiation field. And so, that was, I think, a beginning opener for me to start to ask the question and to realize, hey, I'm doing a lot of stuff. Why? What am I really here to do? And so that question and that willingness to jump in with 2 feet has kicked my ass, quite frankly, a lot on this journey. But my ass is still here. So it's like, okay, I'm still here and I'm still around. So from there, I went on the journey of, taking on this work. I graduated with that degree. I worked at a former fuel cycling facility in Missouri that had accidentally shipped nuclear fuel to Canada as opposed to a waste site.
Wow.
And so I came into the profession, but kind of under the gun of a lot of scrutiny. And I was a sample coordinator, junior. But so I had been thrown in the water, see if I could swim a lot my life, but I swim. Eventually I ended up surfing, and so it's like that journey brought me into a lot of work with all departments of the military. I was assistant or an alternate RSO for the military, helping to create a radiation safety plan in Schofield Barracks in Hawaii. That work took me to Hawaii. But that journey also took me through a couple of marriages. I do mean a couple, maybe even 3, and a lot of relationship woes, having a lot of my paradigms crash, cancer twice, and the second journey after relationship and cancer, and also dealing with depression and suicidal tendencies, brought me to that edge, and so there came a time when I was losing it. I was living on the island of Hawaii. My mother had died. My family had gone through some of the craziness of what happens when you lose the matriarch. Same cancer in the same area that I had, that my grandmother had, but I beat it, but my mom didn't beat it. My wife left me. My businesses in the Philippines kind of went shit with that relationship, estrangement from my daughter. And then I'm living on Kauai, miserable. Kauai is the last place, brother. Hawaiian Island, as someone who wasn't raised there, but who became a man there, is the hardest place to be low, in my opinion. Just because, and of course, that's a shame and a pressure thing. It's not real. Anyone can be low anywhere. But for me, it was really daunting. And so on the day that I went to kill myself, and I had family members who did it before. I was going to kill myself in my BMW 740, my favorite car. I lived on a property with a politician, but I didn't like her. So it was kind of like a fuck you to life and also to her. I was like going to be scandal. And I literally went upstairs and kind of collapsed with the phone in my hand while the car was running, and my brother calls with the phone in my hand. I did one of those Hail Marys to God, or source. I was like, look, if there's a reason for me to stick around, let it be shown. And I lay back in the phone with him. My brother calls, and he's called to complain, but about some things that were going on with him. But he's no counselor, but he said and helped me to do just the right things, to decide to take one more breath, one more step, and just get some things aligned with work. And then I was like, all right, I'll take one more step. And also I had a moment to think, as it's kind of selfish, to put your family through something like this right now. But I was still honestly suicidal. So I was like, fuck it, I'll just wait 3 years. I'm going to go at life, and see, create a case study. What is it for me to be here? Because I'm going to fucking kill myself anyways. But at least I can write my poetry, and write something so that they know what I went through before I died. And then also see if I'm wrong. And I was wrong. Halfway through my journey of backpacking through Southeast Asia and getting deeper into surfing, connecting with people, journeying with medicines, then I was like, no, it's fucking epic. Actually, this is the place to be. Being incarnated in your avatar, in a body as a consciousness, is the place to be. And on that journey, I would say medicine came for me. And then I ran from it, and then it came for me again. And so I found out in Africa, after journeying, I went to work with non-Western medicine to cure the cancer when it popped up the second time. Because I already knew I could do, radiation therapy or go through chemo. But my opinion is the chemo that my mother went through and grandmother went through was what suppressed their immune systems enough for them not to make it. So I'm like, I'll just give this a try. And so I ended up doing combo in
Really
a
quick,
hormone
because
beat.
I want to dive deep
Yeah.
into so much that you just brought up, but with the type of cancer that you had, like what type of cancer was it? How far along? You know,
So
because my mom, she passed from ovarian cancer. It started as stage 3C, which
oh,
is near terminal, and then they gave her a year to live, but she lived for 8 years, and she went in and out of chemo and remission. And there's a lot of questions I have for you, and one of them is tied directly to your experience with cancer. How far did it go? How sick did you get? And then talk to me about combo, because I've done combo before one time, but I want to go back and do the 3 sittings in a lunar cycle. I don't know if you're,
yes, that's
so
what I did.
okay, talk
Yeah.
to me about all that. Yeah.
Well, let me tell you that my mother died of ovarian cancer too, and
Damn,
my
brother.
grandmother. Yeah, so it's chicken skin here, goosebumps.
Damn.
Yeah. So one, just honoring your mother in that journey, and the peace that she gets to experience now. May she rest in power, and the same for my mom and my
Likewise,
grandmother
brother.
and all those who've navigated that. My mom, stage 4, off bat, same short term to live. She made it for 5 years, I believe more. She beat it, and then after my second wedding, a week after, she contacted me and said it was back. So she had maybe, as far as I know, unless she was, sometimes people with cancer don't tell you all the facts.
Right.
But unless she was bullshitting me, it was about a week, 2 weeks of peace, and then the return. And it was actually my mother's inquiry into, alternative healing that sparked it, because she wanted to come to Big Island. I was living off grid at the time, and she was inquiring about some things there, and we never pulled it through. So that's also what prompted me to say, I'm going to go 2 feet in with the medicine and see. I had testicular cancer, and it was fast metastasizing. So what we decided to do with the first run in 2009, I had a testicle removed. I decided not to put another, like a fakie in, so it's one ball in it, which also, there's so many things that affect a man's self-image that's not spoken to among men, you know? And
Make
so
make
I
you
had
kind
that
of
one
like
removed.
emasculated in a sense, like your psyche playing tricks on you, and I'm not a man, and all this bullshit.
Yeah, yeah, all
It's
this
not
bullshit.
bullshit,
And
but it's stories we tell ourselves.
it's true, and so it's like having a part of you that's so much who you are as a man removed. And so it's I've had to navigate through. One, I still got my etheric ball, so fine. Two, it's I still got one, so I have to be on that Scarface. Like, I'm not breaking this last one that I have for nobody. And and then I'm like, well, I'm gonna treat it like gold, and so and that actually helped me to come into a new space with my body, which I do men's groups out here as well, and gathering men and gathering women. I call it the man embodiment movement. So I'm involved in a lot of stuff, which maybe we'll speak to throughout this chat. But really, it's all one thing: it's creating spaces for people to integrate life together, to bring wisdom that's been kind of stripped away from us when we're in separation, to the to this space where we can move unified, but also begin to see each other and honor each other for the dignity that we all deserve just by being incarnated.
Yep.
So there was a testicular cancer, and then the doctors were like, "This is going to move to your retroperitoneal lymph nodes, and if that happened, I wouldn't be able to have an erection, nor have the chance of having children again." And so we jumped on it, and I did radiation, electron radiation beam therapy, and we went right up to the dose that it would kill my kidneys. And so I did have some complications after that. You know, I went back to work. I was in a crazy relationship, a little Norman Batesy, and so I decided to put myself in a better environment would be to go back to work. But my work at the time was I was working at Schofield Barracks on the firing range. And the work was we were building a battle area complex for the guys to go over to Afghanistan, but like a practice space.
Yep. Like a Q
But
course or like a CQ course where they would go in and kind of like prep for the actual field work they're doing out there as operators.
live, absolutely. And then, with their big machinery too. But the reason I was brought there was because there was radioactive material that needed to be characterized and, spoke to. And I think all this is public, so I can speak to it, but I'm not going to go into too much detail. Essentially, there were rounds of depleted uranium, and that's a big thing on the island. So in the islands, um, these weren't like what we find that's aerosolized in Afghanistan and in like the other theater, but they still have, it's still specialized nuclear material. So I was brought in with a company who had a license, and it was to help the Army now to move forward and work with this material based on the laws that are set up, and then also do some training for people under the license, so everyone honored the license, so that we could do that work, and then the Army could have their own license, which they did. So 7-week job turned into, they brought me back. The guy in charge was like, I'm not coming back. Good friend of mine, but he was done, and I thought he was bullshitting, and then he was like, no, pay attention. Then I did get sent back, and 7-week job again turned to 7 years, because they kept rolling me over into different projects, and I, quite frankly, wasn't trying to leave Hawaii either.
Right.
So yeah, I was like, no, this is amazing. So it was a really great experience. And I tell people, I was born in Brooklyn. I was raised in Chicago and Florida, but I became a man in Hawaii because I dealt with so much of my human experience there. So 2017, cleared cancer, beat it, good to go. But of course, with the radiation therapy, I did have some complications with my renal artery. Stopped working. So I have metal inside me, a chain link of platinum and stainless steel, to kind of block up the artery so that it can form a new pathway down there, but also because blood wasn't returning, everything was just going down. So it's quite painful situation. Like, imagine feeling like your balls about to explode.
No.
Yeah, it's like blue balls times 100.
No.
Yeah. I don't want you. Don't imagine it for too long.
Right. I'm not calling that shit in.
Don't call it in. Don't call it in. So I had that fixed, and then there's just the journey of dealing with surgeries. But I never stopped working because I was trying to avoid certain things in relationships and really just avoid myself.
Escapism in a way. Yeah,
very much in a way. And so of course those things create complications. So like I'd work the full day. I had a big drill auger. It's funny because it's like physicist nerd work, but very physical work out there, sampling, running what's called a gamma spectroscopy device, where you're reading essentially the energetic fingerprint of different materials, and then figuring out that there's a certain concentration of that, so that you can say this is clear and it's good to go. And then going back and doing the work. So I'd work. I come in, look like down to see if my sutures were okay. I had blood all over my underwear. Kind of stop for the day. Then go in for my treatments, which were essentially they put my balls in like it's kind of brute force. Like they had a lead thing that they made to cup my testicles, like a little mini globe. And so then I would get the radiation therapy, and I had like radiation burns, in my abdominal, because they were shooting the beam through both sides.
Yeah.
And the nausea. So what happened was I really released a lot. I cried a lot during that time. I tried to do kind of a laughter therapy for myself, because I had heard Deepak Chopra speak to cell apoptosis and how there are certain hormones that come out when you laugh.
Yeah.
And when you go on a roller coaster, that work with the phagocytes and help to move things through the body. So I just got all the like 80s sitcoms, Urkel, Full House, all the Cosby.
Hell yeah.
The Cosby Show, Cosby.
Yeah.
And then and I cried more than I've ever cried in my life, aside from the second divorce, and then because my mom died and all that stuff happened at the same time. So okay, cancer clear. Fast forward to 2017, I go back to Hawaii. I'd left the islands, I went traveling, go back. And what I have a practice of doing is going back to all the areas in the past relationship to make peace, to kind of bring a cycle to a close. And when I did that and went back to Hawaii on Oahu, I ended up I had like this huge fit of rage. I saw Thor Ragnarok. And I love the movie. And then
one
I was
of my favorite Marvel
movies
by far.
Fucking amazing. I just love the whole soundtrack, and I love Thor.
Yeah.
And it's
he's
like
one of my archetypes. Like if Doctor Strange met Thor, I'd be their kid.
Amazing. That's wild.
Yeah.
Well, I'd be your cousin for sure. I'm trying to get in that family, in that mix. Yeah. And so, I'm driving back, and then I just felt this energy of all this anger and sadness and shame, and I let it move through. But I don't know, man. It was too much. And then I was sick, like I like literally, like my kidneys stopped working, my throat swelled up. I woke up, I was camping the next day in the worst fever, and it just got progressively worse. And then I had some, we're connected to people who have opened up their psychic abilities and who can read from afar. And so I had a couple of different folks reach out to me and say, "Hey, you're sick again." And I kind of wasn't trying to hear it, but I was sick, you know? And so it was like, what to do? Well, during my mother's funeral, my mom's sister disclosed to me that she had breast cancer.
Oh,
So that's
wow.
the other matriarch. Yeah. So it was like, I was just carrying a lot at the time. And so I'm like, fuck, all right, if I'm sick, she's sick. And there were things that were happening to me when the first cancer came that I, remember now, because you go back and you see these things in hindsight. There was certain metallic taste, sweating, strange type of sweat that I was having, in the nights. I think my body's own response. So I fought that whole thing and just tried to deal with it, and kind of mind over matter it. And then, I was like, let me not be stupid. By this time, I had been exposed to ayahuasca,
Hell yes.
and I had sat with peyote, San Pedro, mushrooms, the psilocybin, and also, so I was open to it. Previously,
Many
I
of the
had,
plant medicines you had experience with by this point.
yeah, what I hadn't experienced was combo. I hadn't even heard of bufo, and then I heard of iboga once or twice. The woman that introduced me was a lover for a short time, but also she's a proper shaman, like Sha woman, Sha being. And so, my first ceremony, she had me holding space because she saw. So I've had people come into my life that are like, your path is this, and I'd be like, nah, I think I want to have a business,
Right.
like because I've never been with all the hokey shit, and there are a lot of people in the spiritual community, and I'm knocking them, but I'm not knocking them. You just come with the bullshit, and I've
Yeah.
been working with Navy SEALs, and by working with them, I mean no, I'm not in the theater with them, but I'm in proximity
Yes.
to a different caliber of man, who are working, you could say, in a dimension that people don't see. And like, so those kind of things. And also being there when folks would come back from the theater and witnessing what the PTSD looks like, seeing all the medications they're on.
Yes.
I did a little work at Tripler Hospital too. I just getting to witness a lot, and also having relationships with, say, women in the military, and so also getting to see both sides. And so it's like, yes, there are some things that we can work with. And then there's also some ways that we bullshit ourselves, being too fantastical. And so that's kind of like, that kind of helped to create a buffer between me and jumping in. But I said, okay, if this stuff is for me, let it come for me. If that's the case. Like like the medicine came for me through people, but people telling me this is your path, I've always been kind of like, nah, let's figure it out myself.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. So I decide, okay, I'm gonna try the medicine. All of a sudden, all this stuff shifts in Hawaii. Flights open up. My grandmother comes to me in a dream, and my grandmother, my father's mother, also had some kidney issues, and I moved out as a teenager to take care of her. And so she says, Mijo, remember my kidneys. And she told me to do laundry. So here's the thing. All right, I'm going to explain this. For her kidneys, her legs were swelling. I didn't know what was going on with my legs. My legs had swelled up to the point of shoe busting, and I could barely walk. And I was car camping on Oahu in my passport. So I'm like sweating it out in the night. I'm sick. And also not able to pee. It's like too much protein in the body, but I'm not eating anything. I'm not drinking anything. And so I have this dream in my sweat, and she says, remember my legs, hint, hint. I also am able to interpret dreams for sure. I've been able to do this most of my life, and so she's like, do laundry. Well, I used to live in Waikiki, and after the first cancer, I was living in, they call them like a penthouse hotel or condotel. So I lived in this place called the Banyan. In the Banyan, in the basement, there was not a sweat lodge, but something similar, a sauna. But many of the people who lived there didn't know. So you're given two keys, a key to your place and a key to the bathroom for the residents and to the sauna. And I used to do this workout called P90X. After the cancer, I was like, fuck this, I'm coming in hard.
I did P90X. That's what turned me on to fitness, man.
Yeah, and I was like, it's like close by. I didn't have to go to the gym. I didn't really want people to see me. I was going through my things.
It's incredible. A lot of the journey we share the same. Like, there's a lot of branches that we've experienced just in our own way. It's incredible.
It's pretty nuts. But I'm grateful for that. To really get more clarity on the reflections.
For sure.
Here, we even both wearing purple shirts. bomb. Yeah. So here I do the P90X. I did everything but the yoga. I thought the yoga was so stupid.
Love
At the
yoga.
time, I was like, I'm not fucking with yoga. I love it now too.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
at the
yeah.
time, I did the whole thing, and I went off to Maui, came back, and then I decided I'd do yoga. But I would do it, and there was the one thing where you do like this pull up and then kind of go like this.
Yes.
I couldn't do it in my apartment, but outside the apartment there was a laundry room. I was 2 rooms away, so I hooked it up in there, and I kept I'd go do that section, and then I'd get locked out because the door would close and they lock automatically. So I was like, fuck this. But they had like the old school roofs that you can push up and put something in there. So I go in and I decided, all right, I'm going to make a key copy. So I made the key copy and I stuck it up there. This is 2010. I leave, I move over to the Nehru Towers. I was trying to big penthouse live back then. So I'm in like 35th floor, penthouse, Nehru Towers. I took everything except for those keys, and something in my head kept saying, go get your keys, go get your keys, even though I'm not living there anymore. And I never did. Well, those keys were still there. Flash forward to 2017. So I go up in the hotel. Mind you, I'm also broke at the time. So I want to throw that in there. That's why I was car camping. Slightly broke. Working a job, but they weren't paying me. Some other shit was going down. So I go upstairs. I could not remember the floor up until that morning. I wake up. I have strength from the dream. I go up there. I bring my clothes because they're soiled in stench. And there's a plug for me to charge my phone. I look up. The roof it's the ceiling still barely open from the last time I put the keys in there, and there's my keys. I put my clothes in the laundry, I charge the phone, and I go downstairs into the sauna. And I sat in the sauna like a sweat lodge until I started to sweat. Then from the sweat, I had to pee again. And so I was able to kind of cleanse and somehow kickstart my kidneys that day. And then, flights and stuff lined up. And then I spoke to some of the people who I was telling to shut up with all their, reading into my field without my permission. And, and the one friend's like, well, have you thought of combo? And then one of my sisters healed stage 4. I want to say it was lymphoma with combo with 4 dots, and so I'm like, okay.
Wait, 4 dots total? 1 session, 4 dots?
Yeah.
Wow.
So I'm like, I'm willing to give it a try. And so I reached out to my aunt. I told her, look, Tanchi, I'm Haitian.
Hold on. Your story and her story in that moment is completely incredible. And for the listeners and viewers, they're going to need a little bit more information because I got really excited about. So she has stage 4 lymphoma when she gets this first combo therapy session. Mm-hmm. They do 4 dots, which for people that have never done it before, they take, depending on where you're from, they could take like an indigenous twig or something just like from local, and they'll basically burn it. They'll make it so it's like embers on the end, and they'll put little dots on you depending on what you need, what you ask for. Like for me, they put the 4 dots on my arm, but then I also told them I was dealing with some heart chakra stuff. And instead of doing it on the front, because she's just a great practitioner, she did it on the back, like right in the middle.
Amazing.
Leads to the heart chakra. So she's like, I don't want to burn you on the front. I'll do it on the back. And I did 4. So you could tell about your experience, but I just want to say like she went there, got the combo. And then how long after did she go for like another test to show that she had no more cancer?
I believe it was within 2 weeks.
Wow.
So what happened was she went in and she got her number, they check your numbers and everything. And they're like, I don't know what to tell you. Whatever you're doing, keep doing it. So then she went in and we did lunar. We did the 3 inoculations. So she tells me about this, and they're all talking about getting someone there. So a guy who used to be a former model, and but I won't speak his name at this point because I don't have permission. But he was sitting with the Matse and Yawanawa tribes. He comes from LA after being in South America, and then ends up coming out to Ormond Beach. I come back from Hawaii to Ormond Beach. To Florida. Palm Coast is where my family lives, my father and them. So I'm there. We're both healing through our things. I tell them kind of what's going on. I reach out to my aunt around Christmas. And I'm like, Tanchi Carol, she's passed now. But, at the time I say, look, Tanchi, I know you're on a break now from the chemo. I'm going to try something called combo. I kind of explained to her what it's about. And I'm like, it's going to be right near the house. Can I fly you out? Can you come out? Do you want to sit? Me, you, and Dad will sit and experience this medicine. And what it is, a powerful lymphatic system flush. It's going to work with the energetics, but it's like a major detox. What do you think? And of course, the previous generations kind of like, no. You try it and let me know how it goes. And then my dad's wife, new wife, but wasn't wife at the time, her brother passed away. So they ended up going to New Jersey, but I sat for the full weekend. So I went in, they were gone. I sit with the medicine. And the first night I'm charged, because the intention was, and let me just backtrack a little bit. Before I even agreed for the combo, I reached out, I had the dream to go to Africa and do Iboga. Iboga is what came through in the dream, just the word. So I started researching. I started looking into it. I even saw the video with Joe Rogan and um, what's our brother name? I ran into him out here, but my Iboga brother.
Aubrey?
Yeah, Aubrey Marcus.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, So I look it up. I make a couple calls. I literally call this place and I'm like, look, I'd like to get in for therapy. I'm kind of working through some stuff with illness and I want to give this a try. The guy's like, we have one person cancel out. Can you make it here? The end of December, beginning of January. I just was like, yes. Then I'm actually talking to the shaman himself. His name's Tayo. He's the first Western shaman from France to come here, and he blends two different types of ceremony together. And it's a theme in my life, harmonizing dualities, And so that's part of integration, is bringing the best things together. So I didn't know how much it cost. I didn't have any money, but I was like, yes, I'm coming. I committed.
Yep.
I'm in. I'll find a way. And I shit you not, like a house sold. I had the money to go. That was a close to a $10,000 journey for me.
Wow.
But I've invested a lot of money in healing and in I thought I was gonna kill myself, right? So I'm like, okay, what's the money worth? But let me get it. And so it's like, okay, if I'm gonna die, because I could have gone to South America, I could have gone to, to Mexico or to Costa Rica. Plus, they're surfing Costa Rica. But I was like, let me go back to the land. This will be my first trip back to Africa. And if anything happens, because what I was told is you can die in the ceremony. At least I die in the lands. I've made my trip back as one who's in the lineage of slave trade.
Hold on. So you could die in just a general combo ceremony, or this specific where he had the two integrate, like the
Iboga ceremony.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
But they say that, and of course it can be harrowing, but it wasn't that for me. But my thought was, cancer, go through what my mom went through, or whatnot. So the returning cancer was in the retroperitoneal area as well, stomach area. And, who knows, maybe the testicle, but it goes from there to the lymph nodes, from lymph nodes to the lungs to the brain. But you can beat it, testicular cancer. But if it turns into something else, who knows? And so I also believe some of that was from my profession. I've done some stupid things as a young man in the profession. Like I tried to sterilize myself with cobalt instead of like a vasectomy fresh out of college. You can do it, it's like a 6-month sterilization, but just by one wave of the wand. But that's also stupid. So,
damn.
Yeah, I know. So I was like, first one I had coming, but second round, there's also secondary cancer effects that can happen through treatment when you work with radiation. And it's spoken to, but briefly most of the time. So I believe between that and emotional discharge and, people's bodies form, they release things in a different way.
Sure.
And I just did too much at once. So the reason I wanted to do the combo was to strengthen me for the Iboga. It's the Iboga that they say you can die in the ceremony. But that's, I think, far and few in between. But if it does happen, then it's just like whatever, it's supposed to happen. But I think also that has to do with people going in there, not being honest, say if they're going for treatment with an opioid, and then they're trying to move to that and they go into the opioid. It really speeds up your heart rate.
Wait a minute. So I'm a little bit lost when you're saying, so there's Iboga has some sort of like substrain. It's compared to an opiate. Is it an opiate?
I wouldn't call it an opiate, but what I'm saying is what it does is it's used in opioid addiction recovery. What it does is it replenishes your nervous system. So that gap that's created by utilizing, drugs and where you're having to make that jump, it replenishes it. You can literally fucking feel your nervous system. Whenever I do medicine now, I can feel the nerve endings on fire, but like replenishing, which is amazing. This is my experience with it. Yeah. And my father's, because my father came with me and he initiated with me. Now, here's the nutso thing. I go over there, the shaman is like, I was there for close to a month. And my intention was to come and heal. But once I found out it works with opioid addiction, then I, for some reason, felt like this could also work to help people with PTSD. And that's really the work that I wanted to get into. So So he's like, okay, but then never says anything when I get there about training. He gives me some books as I asked to read about the medicine, and nothing formal, but all observing. So I go, I sit with the medicine. I thought I was getting a microdose, but I was getting a scoop as a full dose, doing a full dose every day once we opened it up. And then I journeyed with the medicine for 7 months in secret when I moved to Bali after leaving.
Wow.
So just to get to know the medicine. But here's the thing: the shaman kept asking me about my lineage. I did 23andMe, and it said, my mother's family came from Benin and Togo. But my father's side, I didn't know about. So my father felt the call to come with me because he wasn't there during the cancer in Hawaii. I kind of navigated that solo. He's like, I'm going to come with you this time, son. So he goes, we initiate together. He comes and he actually goes to the initiation as well. So we both, me and my father and my brother Kevin, a friend Kevin, but he's my, Boga brother now, went through the initiation together. So it was really like a men's rite of passage, but with my dad.
Beautiful.
Fucking amazing.
Yeah.
I have so much respect for him. At 60 plus.
We need that more, especially in like the masculine side, those initiations with other brothers and family and elders. And, there's the stuff that we do and people that we know is definitely shining light on that. But that's such a huge, powerful thing that we just need as human beings on this walk on earth, is that initiation.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So we had that, so we go, we do the medicine. And then at the end, I decide, let me find out where my father's line is. But this time I did African ancestry, which will take you to the tribe. Well, my dad kept saying, man, this reminds me of Haiti. There's just something about this place. And I felt it too. He leaves. I stay there a little bit longer and I come back. I do this African ancestry. And so I was initiated by brothers of the Fang tribe, which is, groups that had moved down from Cameroon and other neighboring places. But there were people in the lands before. There were who we tend in Western society call it's the Twa people, but the pygmies. But that's not what they call themselves. I feel like they're other alien beings straight up, like for the wisdom they carry. Yeah. They're really, the gentleman that I ran into was super high vibe and wise in silence even. And so those folks were there, and there were other people there in the lands. I get the test information back while I'm in Bali after I had left. My father says, "You're not going to believe this, son." I'm like, "What?" Because our line is 100% from Gabon. There's no this and this. We were from Gabon, the land that I was brought to for this healing. And also, we're part of the Mayene Galoa tribes. So I have my indigenous heritage now that I can go back at some point. I might even be able to get citizenship there. Those are people who've been in the land working with the medicine before the people who initiated me. And my initiation was just fucking epic. I've said in other medicine ceremonies, but I've never seen anything like this. The ceremony that was done there, and with the whole community, focused on the healing of 1, 2, 3 people, all that energy, and it was fucking, Wakanda epic from how I felt. And that was before the movie had come out.
Your body and your consciousness within like every fiber of your being, along with your dad's, that was, subconscious at this point, like it brought you home. It brought you home. And it's like the intelligence that we have that we're just scratching the surface on in a lot of different ways. It's so powerful and it's universal, and it's amazing how there was this whisper, whether it was audible or not, but just it called you back to where you needed to be to heal.
Yeah, and this is absolutely happening. So now I'm firmly convinced we write so many things into our story, and we go through these periods where we're like, what the, like, one would say, oh, you can't write this shit. You ever had some crazy stuff happen? You're like, you can't write this, but we have written. And so what's the end of the matter? Is the question that I ask, and it's helped me through a lot of things. Even I still whine and bitch and moan, but I keep my feet moving, in the meantime. And I'm working to cultivate the ability to say, all right, what is the end of this matter? Let's see if I can witness it.
What is Iboga in terms of the journey, like once you imbibe with the medicine, because I've never actually worked with Iboga and I know very little about it. So what is the method of utilization, like using it, and then, kind of without, spilling all the secrets for people, but just kind of like give them some high level overview of what it's like?
I would say it's ingestion. This is a process like many of the medicine journeys of doing a cleanse. You can just eat it, you can go through, but like traditionally, there's cleanse, there's a lot of intention put into the cleanse and into what you're trying to release. And it's a death and rebirth process, but the lucidity is serious, and so you go into a trance state and you're guided through a trance state by the people there in and out of essentially your death and your
Wow.
rebirth. And so there's a lot of symbolism there, and one would say psychomagic, but actually it's very technical what I recognize. So when I sit in ceremony, I see the technical aspects, how people are moving, like circuitry. So this is science, high science, in my opinion. And what I ingested was
Divine science in a sense, right?
absolutely divine science. And I've heard that Gabon has been considered the Tibet of Africa, and I could see why. What I learned there is that there are people that nobody knows about who are holding such a high vibration, like a grid, and they're very consistent in what they do, but it's holding a vibration for the totality. Like there are people who no one will ever learn about who are helping to keep a balance here in this density. And so I got to witness that, and it really changed like my perception of what it is to embody an ideal. Like then it also gave me another insight into the heart of man. Because men, we're very sensitive in our hearts, but it's because we like ideals. Our ideals get broken, our heart gets broken very young. We can be emotionally molested by certain pressures put on us as a youth, and then we have to grow up and figure this shit out. And so we're acting from that space. And so then I'm like, fuck, man, like there's a lot of guys that I've run into are assholes, but I'm an asshole, in that sense. Like
we're
I'm
just
like,
hurt
no,
kids running around.
We're just hurt kids reflecting each other. So I'm like, I have more compassion for the most part, except for in LA, of like that's another level right there.
So the soulless succubus that it can be.
Well, I'll tell you, LA, there's some things to be happening, but I'm teasing, but I've definitely been tried up there. But I love LA, and I love I've run into met some really cool cats from Compton and like other areas out there as well. But what I'm speaking to is like the journey opened me up for a much deeper insight as to why I'm here. Because it was like, why should I be here? Now it's like, no, I'm fucking here. What am I going to do with my here-ness, so to say? And how can I navigate the fact that I'm coming into some knowings, but also I don't know anything.
Right.
But I'm written into this reality somehow, whether it's from me and my higher self and source, or from you. And so now my thing is I'm going to do the best that I can for all the stories that I'm written into to be empowering, because you have choice. And that's been the biggest thing in all the medicine journeys, is the daunting situation with choice. As I spoke to you, about like, hey, okay, you take this medicine. What a lot of people go through is a loss of ambition, but it's because it's daunting how much power you truly have, in your choice. I see behind you, it says, I choose. I see the gladiator.
Brother, chills, because you're talking about, I'm going through a dark night of the soul right now, and I have like barely just like if you could see like an EKG where it's like blipping, like I have like barely like any ambition right now. And I'm like, I know, because a lot of my like paradigms, truths, like have been shaken to the core. I feel like and this is something we could talk about offline, but it's amazing how I'm experiencing that. So have you experienced a dark night of the soul, or multiple? I would imagine that you've been through so much divorce and almost death and cancer and losing loved ones. And then also, once you start getting on the path of working with medicine and cracking yourself open and doing all these things, how do you center yourself again? How do you come back to being, not getting stuck in the astral and being able to make shit happen, but at the same time being a loving, beautiful being and like being motivated all while doing it? Like it's a process.
It's consistent. So for me to find that grounding, so I went through all that journey, and then I ended up going back to Africa, and I had another harrowing journey coming back, which was an initiation. But the initiation was, I had an entity, I was possessed, and I could see it, which was nuts. I had to make my way back from, where did I go? I went from South Africa, SA, Johannesburg, to Ethiopia, from Ethiopia to Dubai. I was on the streets of Dubai. So I literally was writing a death letter, having to be helped back to America from there. I had to go from Dubai to Russia. I went to Moscow. From Moscow, I flew to Miami, Fort Lauderdale, and then, made it to Alabama, where I nursed. I cocooned myself. The dark night of the soul, stay in it, man, because because new dark nights will continue to come, but it's support. So the reason I say integration and the doula is that there's a continual gestation, and I see it so clearly that it's like, if for you specifically and anyone who sits in ceremony with me, I say, look, integration is what I'm interested in. You'll sit, you'll open up the store, but it's what you do afterwards. And so you have this fantastic offshoot or expansion, and then there's a contraction, and then you start to open up again, but you change something inside of you, and so everything else around you, because you did a high vibrational change by reciprocity, by this reflection, is going to be changing. And so then I'm like, just be the observer for a little bit.
Yep.
And I try to give people as much insight, but ultimately you got to have someone there who's been through it. Hence why we want to bring the fathers and multiple generations together, this kind of tribe thought, and then to let you know, hey, it's okay, this is normal. But also, like, it's, as men, it's good to have someone be there with you, because we lone wolf it so much, and then that's where we come into the illusion, one that we're separate and solo, and then we can make some fucked up decisions in that space. And I've done it all, that stuff.
Damn,
so
brother.
I didn't have anyone for integration when I was going through. I kept saying, who the fuck is there? Like, what the hell? But that sometimes, for now, it's an indicator. Sometimes you have to be the first one to go through something for you so that you can really create something for other people. So
Yes.
all of what I do is, I recently did a bespoke retreat, a 7-day retreat, journeying with Bufo and some other plant medicines, but it's an integration retreat. All the things that I do have to do with what are you going to do next, and making sure that people have a strategy. The plan can fail, but a strategy gives you adaptability. A strategy and some tools, and then a person, to speak to. And then I have other people. It's not just about me, because I'm busy, right? But I'm also trying to do stuff. But my commitment karmically is, if I serve medicine to you, then I want to be there for you. And so going to a shaman who doesn't speak English, there's kind of a block, but that's not the worst thing. But having someone who's experienced Western life, who's versed in some Eastern philosophy, but who's really trying to understand the conjugate nature of the reality and make sure that everyone who's connected to him also makes it through. I want good karma, for that, for me and for you. And so things change, but I feel there's a responsibility for me to be in your life and in the life of anyone who sits with me later, because when you have that access, you can move through things. And the journey is to support us, each other.
No question, brother.
You're me.
Yeah, there's so much I want to share with you, offline, but
and I have time and space, and I'll make time and space for you anytime, especially in that. Yeah. That's my commitment to you from the first day that we met.
I love you, and I thank you so much for that, because it's I'm in need of some stewardship right now, where I feel like usually I'm the one that can steward and hold space, and I'm doing I think a good job of just surrendering and sitting in the feminine of just, letting it do what it do. But man, it's a fucking go of it right now. It's like Lane and Steven that you met. Like Lane's my deep soul. He's amazing. Brother. Yeah. He's wise. Really he's another beautiful being, and he and I rap about this a lot, man. And it's a fucking ride, man. And I went from like this, I felt like really high vibey place, to like now I'm kind of just like getting my ass kicked. So
good. I mean, not good that you're getting your ass kicked, but good that that we're in each other's lives, because I want to absolutely see you through this. Yeah. My thing is, I had a boss when I first got into the health physics field from Oklahoma, and he had these funny jokes. One of the things he would say is, "Man, that person's ugly enough to stop a 10-day clock," And I'm like, I like Southern soliloquies, and like I like those sayings. And the other thing he said was, "I'll dance at your wedding," And so, but in other words, like, I want to be there to celebrate your victory, and this is I think part of my dharma. So I'm looking forward to. I'm willing to stick around to the point of your victory, and then celebrate with you.
I appreciate that, man. Yeah, let's talk a little bit about. There was some, and however far you feel called to go into this kind of pulling back the veil, and no holds barred on my end. But when I sat with you with Bufo, it was the first time that I sat with that medicine. I had sat with ayahuasca, I'd sat with San Pedro combo, and I'm a big fan of psilocybin mushrooms. They've done so much to help me, and I've facilitated mushroom journeys for people, and it's been so fucking powerful, man, in so many ways. And I'm called to that medicine specifically, but now after working with you, Bufo is one of those that obviously I would never consider facilitating for many journeys, if ever, but it did something really powerful for me. It really embedded a lot of the things that I had been shown. And the big thing for me was, I had shared with you what I had received, and it was so fucking powerful, man. And I want to talk to the moment, how I felt like, and you told me this before I got into it. You said, I'm going to be in there with you. And I really could feel like you were curating and almost building this experience along with myself and the medicine and the space. Like, so can you talk to how the fuck you can do that and high level, wherever you want to go, but like, what does it mean for you to be in there? And can you actually facilitate, manipulate in a good way, the experience?
I think the experience absolutely can be manipulated, but then there's ethics, that's really important. So I'm big on that, because I've had some experiences that also made me like, fuck all this and the shaman stuff that have to do with lack of ethics. So that has to do with my upbringing, There's like so many things that factor into this. I have a lineage that I have an aptitude, to navigate with medicine. And so I've just fully decided to embrace that. And so I have, ancestors, and I have other beings that come to aid. But ultimately, seems to be my agreement with the medicines is they're teachers, we're peers, though I honor them. And so how you approach the medicine, like marijuana is a powerful medicine, but if you abuse marijuana will abuse you.
Yes.
Like it blast holes in your aura and take over, because these are consciousnesses that seek to propagate themselves. So it's like, okay, me, Jesse, my higher self, your higher self, the medicines, this agreement to go in, your ancestors, if you so choose, and source, no particular order, as I said that too, not to offend anyone here, but like all of these components, and we make an agreement. We go into this space, but it's for you ultimately. So I may intuitively do some things, if you say, I may have something here, you're entitled to work with my energy perhaps, but for the most part, I'm moving around, and what I'm doing is just filling out the space. The TP is alive. I also practice Ho'oponopono, but the Ho'oponopono belief, which is something I had even before having that word, which is all of this is alive.
Yeah.
All of it. Plastics. We have our thing against plastics, but plastic is alive and conscious too. We have done something to create plastics and bring it into this realm. So it's like our child. Now I've connected with some other people who are helping to raise the consciousness of plastic. So we're in the teepee, it becomes a living womb, right? And so that's the birth and rebirth. And so hence why I would say doula, I'm just looking, feeling, and whatever comes to mind and to heart to do or to not do, I just want to obey. And so it can be manipulated, say if I'm like working with your energy and moving some things along that I see, or also just sitting, and observing. But ultimately, it's just to keep you safe, keep your physical body safe, because I'm working with dudes with PTSD too, and also we're just crazy as human beings. Some people jump up and like fucking punch holes in the tent, and like try to put me in a chokehold, and I'm just like, hey, come on, like
yeah.
Like I don't mind. I've been knocked out a couple times, but I prefer not to have it happen not in ceremony. Luckily, folks have been really. Now I've had some crazy shit happen, but I've walked away. Walked away.
You're
from
still here talking to me right now.
Much. Yeah, I'm in it. I'm in it for the long haul. So I'm like, I accept some things will happen.
What was your training outside of personal experience? So like, there's in this world of plant medicines, you can be a scientist all day, you can be a therapist all day, but until you actually do the work and experience the journey, you'll never truly know what it's about. And I think. Go ahead.
No, let me let you finish.
I was just going to say, like,
high level truth right there.
That's okay. That's that one point. But knowing that, we know that's you have a profound understanding of the experience, but then that's completely separate from being able to steward and facilitate and having the ability to hold space and like you said, fine tune as you go along. Where did that skill set come in? Did you have a teacher? Do you have a teacher, or was it again you had the aptitude? You kind of had this knack for it, plus your own experience brought you there.
I think there's some natural ability there, but also like mindset, cultivating that. So cultivating principles that come into play and then mixing that with intuition and some natural skills and propensity for certain things. And then I'll say, I when I go in, you're my teacher. The medicine is my teacher, the space is my teacher. So I'm a student just trying to be as attentive as possible and do what I'm told, and even if higher self that's, video game in my avatar is there, but I open myself to that and I open myself deeply to it. And so a lot of it is I don't want to fuck up,
Yeah.
and like there's a person that just took the highest vibrating God molecule, trusted me, to do this, and so I have to just pour it out and dedicate myself fully to you. Nothing exists but you in that moment, you know, and your safety and you coming back. And sometimes people go and they don't want to come back, and so I say, hey, I'll be in there with you. I'll be there before you go. I'll be here when you come back. Bring your ass back because everything to be done is here. And
Yes.
people underestimate the importance of what's going on in this density and how that the perturbance in of the media of all densities there's a reason why we incarnate here, and we're just made to forget it. But this is a powerful place to be. Your physical avatar is fucking amazing. Like we start off so small, and so we're like in this mobile spaceship galaxy, like yeah, Octopus, my teacher, is amazing, but also we're amazing, and we have a lot in common that we're unaware of with that. And so for me, I have had people come and bring the medicine to me. The beginnings of my Bufo journey, some of it was experimenting. I had a deep session in Bali with the previous partner and another person who's well known in the Bufo, from the UK. And so the woman was coming to train my partner to work with the medicine, and she just happened to share to me what the thing was. If you're to be facilitating this medicine, this is some stuff you have to do. So I kind of tricked them into giving me a high dose, and then I tried it out myself. And so like I went in on about an hour and a half journey, and I saw my body. You see X-Men Apocalypse?
Hell yeah, I'm into all the Marvel stuff. Yeah.
My dude. So yeah, so obviously and so like Apocalypse, when he was in the pyramid, and then all of a sudden the sun hit the pyramid, and it became like a computer chip, and all this gold light was filling. So my body was all black like a chip, and there was Sanskrit, chants happening that were definitely not those two women who were fairies singing fairy music, and I was like, what the fuck? And I could see my body being reprogrammed to the music, and so that was like, I didn't do the medicine, I didn't mess with Bufo again for two plus years. It wasn't until I came here I left it alone. And so here it was. I did a journey on the 21st of December, and on the solstice at the beach, like sunrise was amazing, and I scared the shit out of the other two people with
2020. Was this 2020?
2020.
Oh wow.
2020.
Okay.
Yeah. And then next thing you know, I have another friend and a bogus sister who reached out to me, who's been working with the medicine in a very quiet way, but very profound way. And she's like, I'm coming. The medicine's calling to you. And I was like, you just want to come for a visit, And so we went into the jungle, and I journeyed with the medicine really, from the day that she arrived, and we'll say that's the 7th or 6th. We journeyed for, I want to say, 6 days straight.
Wow.
Going in and out, going in and out, going in and out. And so I, and then after she left, I had medicine, and I journeyed with myself. And so I went in. My thing is, I take the medicine first. I'm going to take my own medicine first before I give it to people.
Yes.
And have a really intimate relationship. So I've journeyed, I want to say humbly, a lot of times. And I've been a psychonaut. I did the same thing with the Iboga, and then I've also journeyed with. My navigation with it is very intentional, and it's the prophecy that was given to me is I'm a uniter of tribes when I was in Africa, and so tribes also mean medicine. So yes. I've done some journeys where I've piggybacked or combined certain medicines, but been very conscious in the journey. And so I took a lot from Sacred Union, from understanding. There's some understandings that I'm going to let digest from the journeys that I took. And then, so I did that. And then another brother I reached out to who's been serving the medicine for 8 years here, who is connected with the Bufo Sanctuary, but just does it, and we do men's groups together, named Kakul, took me under his wing, and we trained. And then the Bufo Sanctuary called out to me one day and was like, we know you're ready to serve. I was ready. Honestly, in my heart, I knew I was ready after my friend left, but I wanted to take precautions and journey deeper in my own energy, which I don't recommend everyone does, but I had to set up safe space and there's a lot of movement, but I think I'm glad that I did it because now there's a confidence that I have, but also a trust in the medicine
Yes.
and intention and setting, and then even knowing the nuances of the condition of the medicine and how that affects the journey. If it's not kept in a certain temperature and how the smoke can be and what that does, and if people are taking in the tar, and so that's why I went over technique. So it's technique. So I'm a technique dude, and then also like just pairing, just trying to come at it more holistically, not too woo woo, because if you hurt yourself, you hurt yourself. If you took too much, I know they say you can't overdose, but like really filling into what kind of dose and then talking with you and also giving you and your sovereignty the right to say, no, man, fuck that. I don't want to do that much. Or change your mind at the last minute. But if you're going in, then let's go in, you know?
What
And
was,
I'm
do
going to
you
do my
remember
best to
the
be there
amount,
with you.
the amount that I was working with? Cause I just trusted everything that you were doing. And I was just like, let's go, brother.
95 grams is what we
Okay.
went in. Yeah. And then sometimes we do 100. I can go as low as 60. Not grams. I'm sorry, milligrams. Obviously. But you'd still be gone right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just coming
You would
back
be like 2 days from now. You'd wake up and you'd be like, that whole thing was a buco trip. Even this interview. Yeah, so.
Man, have you ever actually? Because I've sat with people, Caros in Cusco, and they'll go in with you, like literally they'll do ayahuasca, and they'll be with you through the journey, whether they go in a little bit or they go in as much as you. I've had that experience before. Have you ever done that with anyone where you were working with a plant medicine, specifically Bufo, and they dropped in, you dropped in, and you were with that in that journey with them?
Yes, but always as an observer because I really don't want to affect anyone's journey. I just want to, the only effect I want is your body's safe, your mind is safe, you have your experience.
Yep.
And I'm witnessing. And if you feel the call out to me, because people, it's again, nuts, but some people can feel my energy there and then they're like, okay, so I want to just serve as an anchor. Say, hey, there's this other reality to come back to and your bro's here, and so I have done that. Sometimes some facilitators may microdose. I try to let people know and I just leave it up to intuition. But I don't want to be doing that all the time. So, you know what I'm saying? So I mean because I still need to be present for you. So it's really a balance of responsibility. And I have gone in, and even in my training, there were the experience of two people going in at the same time, serving multiple people at once. But my preference, and I think my agreement with the medicine honors that. I like to serve one person at a time, devote all my attention, because attention is, especially if it's coherent, really powerful in creating protection. And then be there of sound mind for you to come back ground and for you to express or not express or be held or whatever. It's about you.
I get so I've actually I've had only one where I've journeyed with psilocybin with somebody as they were going through their journey, and it was just more of a kind of more of a playful experience. It wasn't like a super like let's do work or let's get like, it was more playful. But when we did, Lane and I held space for 14 other people, and we didn't touch the medicine. And he took 7, I took 7, so to speak, and we were just. It was a beautiful experience, man. It was absolutely beautiful. It was exactly what it needed to be. So many people had healing and joy and love, and some people did some deep work. But at the end of it, like everybody was so excited about like how that journey went for them. But that was another time where I didn't actually do anything, where everybody else dropped in, because it was just like so many people. I felt like with that one person.
Yeah, that's a lot of energy.
Yeah.
And I've done ceremony, even peyote. I've worked with a couple of different medicines, kind of as an underling, but been holding space and like really understanding that. And this is what I did for work. I was a manager of sorts. So the holding space thing has been going on my whole life. And it's just, do you have all these talents and things that you cultivate the whole journey? And then later we start to feel the golden thread and put it together. And so that's why I do many things, but really I'm only doing one thing. Now I'm keenly aware of what the one thing is, and so that's can be powerful, but also daunting. I do go in with people with other medicines. And psilocybin, I take some. I want to be in the field of the medicine, but like if I'm going to do a psilocybin ceremony, I'll work with the medicine that I received the day before 2 days before, because I also need to know what I'm
Yes.
giving people, you know.
Yes.
So there's no way I'm going to serve a medicine that I didn't journey with. And then I typically will go in at a smaller dose, you know, because I also need to be in the field with everyone else. So I'm not opposed to that at all, but just there's caution, because sometimes people can feel that you're not in the field, and that creates a paranoia,
Yeah.
especially with psilocybin. Like psilocybin can sometimes be like hurting hurting blind cats.
Yeah.
No, you know, yeah, it can be nuts. And so like it, that actually takes more energy for me, you know, than working with Bufo.
Yeah, Lane and I, we had this, retreat that we did. It was Thursday through Sunday, but we did our own journey on the Wednesday before. So we would go into the ceremony like with the medicine, at least in our body, so to speak. And that was one of the most playful. So I did write it about 5 grams.
Oh
And
yeah.
yeah. And brother, I saw my soul traveling through the cosmos, traveling through eternity with Lane's soul. Like, so my soul was wearing
Beautiful.
like this golden headdress, and I
Hmm.
couldn't make out the rest of the figure, but I definitely saw like a golden headdress, and it was like Silver Surfer, man. It was like we were traveling through the cosmos, and like it was really cool. And I had asked the medicine, I was like, show me what my superpower is, and it didn't show me in that moment. It revealed itself to me a few days later. I was doing some quantum healing, and I sat up with no medicine, like no, I hadn't taken any medicine since that Wednesday, so it was clear, but pretty much right. And so I sat up, and I had this insane, and I want to talk about this, this insane power like radiating from my hands, and
Yes.
I felt it. So this is something I talked to Lane about. He's like, so if you can imagine like Doctor Strange or like Thor, like something starts emitting from their hands, and it's like,
Yeah.
for me, I felt it first when I was on ayahuasca, and I got this mantra given to me as I was sitting there looking at the Caro, and I could see into his shape because it was dark in the mandala hall that we were in. And it was like I could see the cosmos in him. I could see galaxies and all sorts of really cool shit. And all of a sudden, I started getting this mantra given to me, and it said, and this just came, innately internally. It said, "You're a healer. You're powerful. You're a creator." And it said, "Healer,
Oh.
powerful creator. Healer, powerful creator." And it just kept on hitting me. And all of a sudden, my hands during the ayahuasca journey, like, were like on fire with energy. And so I'm like, all right. And then months later, I sat in a separate psilocybin ceremony. And again, I felt my hands powerful and energetic. This other time, I've felt it through having no medicine. And it was, I sat up during this quantum healing experience, and I started doing that mantra again. And what happened, my superpower was revealed to me. And it was, I had been through so much trauma in my life, and I had put myself through certain parts of trauma so that I could learn how to heal myself, so that I could at least try to give that information and teach other people how to do the same thing and like hold space and be empathetic. So like my journey was like going through this pain to be able to heal it so that I could teach others how to do it. And I sat
Oh.
up, and I was like, I know what I'm supposed to do with the rest of my life. And we did the sharing circle, and I'm sitting there with my hands, and they're fucking on fire again with power and energy. And I've felt this a few times, and I've talked to Lane about it. And he's like, see what you could do with it, man. He's like just put some intention behind it. Have you ever heard of this? Have you ever heard of like energy, whether it's hands or something else? And like, what can you do with
Yeah.
that?
Absolutely. I've heard of it. I experienced it. I actually work with it, you know, and I'll work to hone that a little bit more. That's also something natural. My first experience with healing, even though I didn't say anything, was just having healing hands, you know. So the last thing I did for my mother before she passed away, I literally gave her a massage for 8 hours and did energy work on her at the time. And then she's like, you should do something with this, you know. And so we're prone to certain things. All of us have these abilities. That's part of the tech. That's why I'm like in awe, but we're just not taught to explore the tech. There's people in other countries who are working with that. It's not, you don't have to be a monk to unlock these things, but there's a discipline, a practice, and intention, and really believing, you know, like you've had the experience. I've had dreams and things shown to me about also that's something very similar, you know, and so this happens at times, but there's other ways that we dissipate our energy, or we're not living in coherence, or we have just too much bullshit essentially going on around where we're sticking with the mundane, but we're far from mundane beings, you know, and so this is what we're realizing. And sitting with these medicines is an activation. But what I mentioned to you in the ceremony is you are the medicine. Lane is the medicine. Ross is the medicine. Stephen is the medicine. Like these, and what I see when people come in is I kind of get a glimpse of like where things are headed, and then I'm like, holy shit, I'm a part of this. You know, like I get to help activate, be in an activation space. my brother, you are the medicine. So none of what you're sharing with me surprises me, you know. And hence, when I moved to your other foot, I was like, I look forward to seeing the journey you have ahead. You know, yeah,
I want to know what to do with those hands, man. So maybe we could talk
yeah.
offline about the energy and what
Well,
how to.
you know what I want to say is first, mine, because a lot of, even for me, I was working on other people. You can actually do work on yourself, you know.
Yes.
So whether you start with the Reiki training, you know, if you look at your fingerprint, a lot of people don't spend the time looking at that. That is an expression of your standing wave, you know. This is you. Like, this is so unique. But that's waveform. And so your fingers have different elements attached to them. Say ether, water, I don't know, wind, air, earth. You know, or maybe this is air and that's earth and fire. But like all these elements exist within your fingertips. There's polarities. Then you have, we're electromagnetic, you know. But more so, we just have different polarities. Energies coming in, energies coming in, left, going out. And so just being exposed to this, being exposed to some healers and just having the conversations and then trying things out,
Yeah.
you know, and easy to try out on yourself first by, you know, starting to feel your own energetic field, feeling your heart, but without touching your chest, you know, starting to feel what emits. From you, I could feel, and I have this too, it's like I emit, you know, the Care Bears, they like, oh, I'm a Care Bear, poof, and the Care Bear stare comes out.
Shoots out.
Yeah. But I know that I emit a pulse, you know, from my heart. I can feel it, I can hear it in my ears. But it's having the time in silence to really just ask the question and receive and then try it out.
Hell yeah, brother.
Try it out. Yeah.
Lots to uncover there. One last thing, because I want to ask you this last question, but I want to save a few minutes at the end for you and I to chat offline. But thinking about God and source, and you've brought this up, and I know exactly how you mean it when you say God, source, you know, universe. And I've had ceremonies where I've had these beautiful downloads or insights. I've experienced unity consciousness where I felt connected to everything alive in the world. I've felt something that was given to me as a message called the God frequency, and
Beautiful.
incredible. And that's a whole nother story for another time. But, you know, I grew up Catholic. I wasn't ever into it. I was forced into it, and I was just like a punk kid. Like I went to a Catholic school, and we would be doing crazy stuff in the church, not paying attention. So like I was in the environment, but I never actually believed in it. And I always felt out of place with religion.
Mm-hmm.
And this is something that, you know, this is my life's journey, part of it. I've been in my initiation and my spiritual journey for decades, and now it's just getting more intentional. And even the band Tool, if you're familiar with Tool are some awakened, tapped in brothers, man. And they do a lot of work with Alex Gray, who's a psychonaut cartographer. He goes into psychedelic states. He brings back things that he sees that we've all seen, like this tattoo I have on my arm. I've seen this. He's painted it. It's crazy. Like there's things beyond this realm, which you know. But and all that being said, you know, for me, I've heard a term recently that says religion is believing in someone else's experience. Spirituality is having your own.
Wow. Profound.
Yes. Yeah. And I'm like, I couldn't resonate with that anymore, because I do believe that there is God and source and a creator of all things, but I'm still finding it hard for me to articulate that, especially going up, not against, but when someone's very religious and they're like, you know, very into that indoctrination. What has your experience been with explaining God, source, creator that, you know, can make sense to the lay person that's not really into this work?
You know, I don't do much explaining that. Essentially, other from saying like, you know, I'm holding the space and allowing them to have their experience and whatever comes up. But we're all connected. You know, this is a fractal, self-similar existence. And so what does that really mean? And I leave people with the question, what does it mean, you know, to you? If everything is connected, this is fractal, meaning it's little pieces of self-similar things, then what are your cells really? Do your cells have consciousness? I mean, obviously, right? And so what do you see out there that isn't here? What is your thought of God, and how is that, you know, reflected in how you carry yourself in your life? My thing is, a person's religion isn't, you know, I was raised Catholic too, and then I became super Christian, then I became a Hebrew Israelite. Then, you know, I stepped away from everything in my paradigm crashed, but now I have a tremendous respect and love. Granted, a lot of religious stuff is programming,
Yes,
but the esoterics are still there. You know, the clues are still there. So it's up to the individual to navigate their journey and take what they want. A person's religion, as far as I'm concerned, and I'm also quoting an author, Neely Fuller, I believe, is the sum total of what you do in any given moment is your current religion.
Wow.
You know, so
Wow.
everything that you're doing right now, that's my religion. So then can my religion be kindness, compassion? Sometimes it's harshness and patience, you know, but ultimately it's choice. What am I choosing to do? And we have that power. I also just wanted to speak to the iboga stuff, because you did ask the question of like, just a quick, like, so the iboga, I go there, there's the root bark, and then there's also the tabernacle. There's an extract, you know, that is a lot easier on the stomach. So when I get to working with the medicine, again, I'm going to be serving the extract, you know, because the root bark is hard on the stomach, so it creates a purge, and it's difficult. This medicine is something that I think it's good to have heart monitoring with, and it's really important for people to do triage and be very honest about their intention and hold to that intention, even if it's difficult, especially if you're working with opioids. And then also monitor, you know, like what's your health state before, afterwards, during, and taking the time to allow things to settle. If you go to see an osteopath, or you go to see, what are the guys, a chiropractor, you know, you need time for everything you did to settle. Do yoga, what I'm hearing my partner tells me is the Shavasana is the most important thing, because that's when the reprogramming happens. Sitting with medicine, the integration, your setting, sleep, water, you know, there's like the simple things are important.
Yes.
And so for that medicine, you know, there's two ways of taking it, and it is illegal in the States, but I'm in Mexico. So, but yeah, but it's also, it's profound what, you know, it can do. The journey was very trancy, and I was in for a lot of days. I did 33 scoops for my 33 servings for my initiation, and then I stopped. I had energy moved from underneath my testicles. I felt whatever was holding me down there moved up, and then I purged, and I knew it was time for me to stop.
Wow.
And then I journeyed with the medicine, like 1 scoop, 2 scoops every day until the day I left. I took about a break when I came to the States. When I went off to Bali, I had a breakup, I had my own space, and I began to work with it again, solo, for about 7 months while I was there. And then when I was in Johannesburg, I didn't want to fly with it back to the States. So I had a bag about this big, and I had this little bit left, and I parted with it under a viaduct, buried it. I don't know if I'll ever find it again, but you know, it was beautiful medicine from a 60-year-old tree. So a lot of conscious wisdom in there. And, you know, I suggest, like, it's a good medicine to have the exposure to, and going through the initiation, I think is a really beautiful way to have more time to connect with it as you go through. I won't be doing initiations, but I will, you know, have the medicine, because I'll be working with it in a different way.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
And I've been given the okay for that. So yeah, thank you for letting me circle back to that.
Hell yeah, brother. And is there anything else you want to throw in before we wrap up the conversation?
I just, you know, again, we're here in these bodies to connect with each other. I recognize that we're reflections. And so what does it mean to be a reflection of the people that you're surrounded by? What are you here to learn? We're in a gestation. You know, it's not just you come out the womb and that's it. You come out the womb into another womb. All this is water and liquid, even light is liquid. You know, so there's a lot to learn about what it is to be here. And this ain't the end of the road. So my suggestion, you know, my intention is to just encourage people to look a little bit deeper and really get what you've come here to get out of your journey in this body, and have a fucking good time.
Oh yeah.
You know, and if you're going through, you know, the dark nights of the soul, reach out, speak to it, say it, you know, because the hardest thing to say is I'm going through a fucked up time, male or female. I see this in both people, and the help is there. So I'm looking forward to that. What I provide, you know, is transformative gathering, which means every meeting is a transformative gathering of souls, creating community and really just creating the support for us to navigate this moment in time, in timeless healing. So thank you, brother, for being a reflection of me, for writing me into your story, for being brave enough to navigate with the medicine, and then for honoring the process, and also just, you know, keeping in touch. That feels good. I feel like sometimes, you know, take someone on a Bufo date and they'll fucking call you back. It's like, oh, was it? You know, so
I'm done, right?
sort of teasing, but it happens. But I keep the door open.
Oh yeah.
Maybe, you know.
Bro, I love you. I have so much respect for you, and I'm excited to do some work, you know, journeying with you in life. And and just kind of seeing where our journey unfolds and the things that we get to experience together, and where you go and how I, do my
Absolutely.
thing. So thank you so much for being you. Thank you for,
Thank you. Honor.
giving me your heart and your intention and your time and our time together in Mexico. And I can't wait for the next journey, brother.
Absolutely. Love you, man.
Love you, man.
Aloha.
Aloha.
Thank you for having me on. Aloha, everyone.